Hello, I'm Susan Tarnowski, the General Manager of the Edina Art Center, and I welcome you to the Author Studio. In this series, we're presenting a variety of authors in a variety of genres. We are hoping to tell all of the stories, not just the story in the book, but the stories of how the author writes, why the author writes, what experiences the authors have had, and what inspires them. Our host for today is Barbara Lavalure. Barbara is a photojournalist and a new memoirist. So congratulations, Barbara, on that. Our author today is Christine Husum. She's a Minnesota author. She has worked for the Wright County Sheriff's Department and currently is a Wright County Commissioner. She has written the Winnebago series and the Snow Globe Murder series. Her characters are interesting. And as she says, not all Minnesotans are Minnesota nice. I hope you enjoy her. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm excited to have an interview today with Christine. Thank you so much, Susan, for that introduction, and welcome, Christine. It's so good to have you finally here.
I appreciate this, Barbara and Susan, for inviting me.
Of course. So I'd like to get right onto the questions that I have, because I have 3 pages of questions for you. And I'd like to start a little general, if that's okay with you, and get to the book a little bit later.
Sure.
Okay. So what are some of the things that you think about when you begin writing a book? And kind of as you continue writing?
Ideas form and they come from everywhere, really. But in the case of my Winnebago County Mysteries, the first 3 books were actually based on incidents that happened when I worked for the Wright County Sheriff, and took those incidents and, of course, fictionalized them, and in the one case, solved the crime that was unsolved. And wow. And so then just someone will make a comment and it just spurs an idea in my head, and I develop it. I really do a lot of that mostly mentally, so I don't tend to really take notes because it's sort of all, formulating in my mind. So when I sit down to write, then I know what the beginning is, I know who my bad guy is, and I know what the ending is. And I don't necessarily know all the things that are going to happen along the way. I know key plot points that need to happen, but I'm what they call a pantser. I fly by the seat of my pants as opposed to being a plotter.
Right.
I mean, someone might do 50 pages of outline, and to me that's almost like writing the book and then just filling in the details after that. So everyone has a different method of writing and different really procedures, but mine tend to be, I'm always sort of thinking about my characters and who they are and what they're like. Mm-hmm. The bad guys can be people that are a little bit harder for me to take on all at once because perhaps what they did. Mm-hmm. So I have to take them on a little bit at a time, but then they kind of become part of me, really. They're not like the members of my family. I don't think about them as much, of course, as my family members, but I think about my characters a lot.
Yes, I would imagine so. Well, thank you for that. That was interesting. Do you have any practices that are due to superstitions? For example, you can't start writing until X happens?
I really don't. I work my writing in at this point in time because of my other job. So I will tell myself that, no, I can't look at the internet until I've written 1,000 words. Well, sometimes I have to look at the internet because I need to do the research, and then I come up an hour later and I've gone down this hole and gathered all this information. But I don't really have any superstitions per se. I just sit down and write when I can, and yeah.
Well,
Crack it out.
I've got more questions here. You mentioned your other job, and that's Wright County Commissioner.
I am. Yep,
That's
I'm-
amazing. How long have you been?
This is
the
my
commissioner?
9th year.
Oh, wow.
And I've got 1 year left after this on my term, and so that will, when I'm no longer on the board, that will free up more time for writing.
Very
so
good.
yeah.
Excellent.
But I love my job too, and I love what I'm doing and helping people and making sound decisions. So
Certainly.
yeah.
Well, we may come back to that topic in a few moments, but
Okay.
maybe not. You published your first book. How many years ago was that?
In 2008.
And has the process of writing changed in that time? I mean, these are all of your books. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, 11 in print so far. So
And one coming out.
one coming out this fall, and actually I hopefully another snow globe shop also.
Okay.
But my writing process actually probably is a little bit different with each book, just depending on the storyline and how much research I need to do for it. But essentially, it's this, when it comes down to it, it's the same. But I do feel like every book writes itself a little differently, just because of the characters, and that's probably just me. But the characters really dictate kind of what's happening, and some books write themselves a little faster. Just certain parts of the books write themselves faster. I mean, sometimes I'll sit down and kind of crack out a couple thousand words, and they go real fast, and then it'll come to something that's more detailed and something that is, I don't know if it'd be scientific is a good word, but that I need to have, make sure, check all my facts and make sure that everything is accurate, because I obviously don't know everything and rely on people I can speak with and get some information. I've interviewed people, and also so some of those things take a little more time in different books. And I do a lot of research about the psychological components that why do people do what they do, and so that's kind of an important aspect in all my books for me.
Certainly in developing your characters. But that process sounds similar to my experience as a journalist over the years. Yes, it does. I have a totally different question now. What was the best investment that you have ever made as a writer?
Probably I've made some pretty good investments as far as my classes that I've taken. I had taken a number of classes in college just because I've always liked writing. So, I think even technical writing helps, writing poetry helps. But I also took 2 classes at the Loft, and one was on writing short stories, and one was how to publish your book in 6 months. And I think it just adds to the kind of the knowledge base. So the instructor said, I'm not an outliner. I've tried, but I just can't. I can't do it. I outline after the fact. After I've written something, then I'll kind of say, okay, now I need to go back and insert this because to make this work out, I have to introduce it earlier. So I tend to do that. I'll take notes after I write. But the author said, to create a storyboard, and that was, create like 12 boxes. And the first box was, what is the question that this story asks? And the last box is, what is the answer to that question? And I was writing my first book, Murder in Winnebago County, and so I did manage out of the 12 boxes to get about 4 of them filled. Okay, I can't outline, I can't storyboard, so, but I think the class is really just to get other perspectives, and I also think that going to conferences and conventions is a great investment too, because I can sit in on panels and listen to other authors' perspectives and how they might do their research or their writing process. So,
well, I think the process you use is working, as is evidenced by all your books. So, what advice do you have for new authors? Because I'm imagining there are people viewing today who are interested in or in the process of writing books. So what do you know now that you wish you'd known, let's say, when you first started?
Probably some of the technical things. I consider myself more of an active writer, write in more active tense, but I had someone actually that was helping me proofread my last book, and she said, I think that you need more active verbs, and it's like, well, I thought I did have active verbs. So words like, ing words instead of, are not as active as ed words, and I didn't recognize that I was using as many ing words as I was. And also the ly words, try to avoid words that end in ly. So these are things that I think if new writers or someone that is trying to get a book written and that kind of thing, to research some of those technical things, because we tend to just write maybe how we've always written, and to get advice from people and have someone read your stuff. Yes. And also make sure that you're speaking to people that might be in that field that you're writing in, because you don't have to. They say write what you know. No, write what you want to know. Write what you think people would be interested in learning about. Yeah. But for example, in my third book, I had written something about a doctor had graduated summa cum laude, and my sister, who's a doctor, said, no, it's alpha, omega, alpha. It's like, ooh, that would have been a really big mistake.
Very good to have that kind of
exactly.
expertise.
And, those are kinds of things that you don't necessarily think you need to research, I mean, to me, that was, I thought I knew it, and nope. Lots of stuff I don't.
So what are some of the practices that you have? Do you write a certain number of days or a week, or a certain number of hours in the day, or do you have a special place you go to write that inspires you?
I do always write in my office. That's also a spare bedroom. And I write at my PC. I'm just not all that handy at laptops for some reason. And I actually, I work until probably 8 or 9 most nights. Oh, wow. And if I'm at a certain point with my book, or if I have a Saturday off, I might write for 12 to 16 hours depending on where I am in the book. So it varies just because of my schedule. Sure. So, but I have fewer evening meetings now with COVID. Yes. So more Zoom meetings, and they're a little shorter, so not travel.
Excellent. Good for you and your readers, I should say. What's the biggest distraction you have when you're writing? What takes you away?
Well, nice weather. I've got a garden to plant.
That would be distracting, wouldn't it? Especially now.
Exactly. So I tend to just try to avoid all distractions. But if I'm feeling a little bit, I kind of get up and walk around, because that movement to me helps generate ideas. Sure. And it helps clear my mind and helps me concentrate on the story. But
let's talk a little bit about A Death in Lionel's Wood, which I really enjoyed, I have to say. So I'm looking forward to reading more in that series. I noticed that you do, it seemed to me anyway, you do well in whether you're speaking in as a male character in the book, or as the female character in the book. So how do you do that so well?
I actually I get the characters' voices in my head. And so when I write Smoke or one of the other, I know how Weber talks, I know what expressions he uses, I know what expressions Smoke uses, and so that's what I go on. In fact, sometimes I'll write and it's like, no, that's not right. That doesn't sound like him. And that actually, when I started reading, when way back, I would read, we're talking first grade, and I'd read the characters, what they'd say, and it's like, no, it doesn't sound like that. So I think it's always been there.
Wow.
And I get a little bit distracted if I read a book and the man sounds exactly like the woman. You know, it's like describing this, you know, these flowers, and oh, they're so lovely. Well, no, I don't think he'd sound like that, so I can get distracted about that. But yeah, I pretty much am listening to I mean, I know I'm the one that's writing that, but I'm kind of listening to them as I'm writing.
So when you're writing mysteries, or whodunits, whatever you call it, are you conscious of planting hints? You know, I can remember when I was reading about, there was a place where a deputy needed a bathroom break, and I was sure that he was guilty. I'm not sure why I thought that, but I thought, why would that be in there if that didn't point to him being guilty? Well, I will let the cat out of the bag, and it wasn't the deputy at all. But anyway.
Yeah, and I do try to plant hints, but also, you know, some things just might be false. I mean,
Yes.
they're not necessarily, it's like, good point, I should probably go back and, why did I put that there? some of those things, but yeah, that's where I need, like I said, to often go back and this happened, so now I need to say why this happened at that point.
You know, in chapter 3, you mentioned that Corky had an English setter called Queenie. Well, you kind of had me there because I used to have an English setter, and his name was Duke.
Oh, wow.
So I got really more interested, and I loved the scenes where Queenie was in the scene. So anyway, I also really, especially towards the end of the book, wanted Corky and Smoke to come together. I don't know if you want to divulge whether that really happens, but I'm going to read some more books. Let's just put it like that.
Okay.
See.
Yeah, and you will find out what happens.
I probably will.
But yeah, it's funny. One of the first book clubs I went to, and after murder in Winnebago County, and so I write this mystery, and what does the group want to know? Is Corky going to choose Smoke or Nick? It's like, we can help you. We can tell you what you should do. It's like, well, thank you. I mean, I was complimented that they were so invested in this story. But they do have a relationship that has been ebbing and flowing since they discovered an attraction.
Well, I know that we're getting close to short of time, but I also would like to just mention your newest book, Remains in Coyote Bog, and that's another Winnebago County mystery, right?
It is. Yep, they're all the same characters. And
Awesome. Yay. I'm so glad. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, yeah, it was
It's
great.
been a great conversation. I could have asked more questions, but that remains to be seen. And please continue writing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was wonderful meeting you and being here. And hopefully we have an opportunity to see each other again sometime.
I would like that very much. Thank you so much. And now let's go back to Susan.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you so much, Christine. What a wonderful book this will be and series for people to read. I did want to give one comment from a reviewer. Mickey Turk, who is the author of Made in the Image, says of Christine's characters, "They shine when they uncoil a smoldering evil inside their tranquil community. The Winnebago Sheriff's Department characters are at times so lifelike that they are having a cup of joe together, and you might feel the caffeine jolt too." I think you probably heard that as Barbara and Christine spoke today. So again, thank you to our host, Barbara, and to Christine, our guest author. Our next presentation will be a series of spoken art authors, and they will be students from local high schools. I hope to see you then, and thank you so much for joining us for the Author Studio.